Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Be Green with Amy. I'm Amy. My husband Rick and I adopted a whole food plant-based lifestyle in 2012, and we have had fantastic prescription-free health results, and we also have maintained our weight loss. Combined weight loss of 130 pounds. Please post your questions below, and I will get to them later on in the broadcast. And to help others who might be searching for answers for health or weight loss solutions, please like, comment, share, subscribe to Be Green with Amy and broadcasts like this because we need to get the word out. So just toss voice. Let's welcome our guests.
Hi, Amy.
Robert Cheeke is a vegan, American bodybuilder, motivational speaker, and author. He is a vegan activist and spends his time touring the United States for speaking engagements and book promotions. He also runs a fitness site, Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness. Be Green with Amy welcomes Robert Cheeke.
Hi, Robert. Welcome.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Oh, I am so glad you're here. I'm so excited. It's like I have to roll out the red carpet because you are just such a big celebrity in the world of plant-based eating. And I'm so honored that you took the time to spend with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate you having me on and excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, we have a lot of different people in the audience today. I think a lot of different areas of the demographics. We have young people who are looking to build muscle. We have old people that are looking to just get out of the chair and everything in between. So I think you're going to just be so helpful to everyone. Now, some people that are watching may not know too much about the plant-based lifestyle and therefore may not know about you. So why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Amy. I've been doing this for 25 years now. I first became vegan in 1995 before the internet was around. And growing up on a farm in Western Oregon, I just didn't want to eat animals anymore. And so I became vegan as a 15-year-old, wondering, could I get bigger and stronger? I wasn't sure if I could build muscle on a plant-based diet, even though I wanted to. Not a lot of books, not a lot of resources back then, documentaries, and certainly no podcasts. And so it was just something that I had to give it a try. I had to put in the work and see if I could make that happen for myself. So at age 15 in 1995, weighing 120 pounds, I set out on a vegan athlete lifestyle and eventually won multiple bodybuilding competitions and became a champion vegan bodybuilder and wrote a number of books. And now I'm up 100 pounds from when I became vegan. I know a lot of people are interested in a plant-based diet for weight loss, but there's also the ability to build muscle, which is something that I have been able to specialize in to some degree over the last quarter century. And so now I'm 220 pounds as a champion vegan bodybuilder and working on new books all the time to show other people how you too can build muscle on a plant-based diet.
That's so amazing. Because a lot of times we hear people going on this lifestyle, and yes, you're right, they're there for weight loss, but there are some people that are out there that are maybe trying to build muscle or in the program that way, and they want to improve their health and they want to do what's right maybe by the environment and the animals too. But that's a scary thing. I hear, I don't want to lose my gains.
Yeah, absolutely. But the beautiful thing about a plant-based diet is that you can either burn body fat and lower weight, or you can build lean quality muscle without adding a bunch of body fat as you build mass. And the reason why that is, Amy, is because once we understand nutrient density and calorie density, we can create meal plans that support our goals. We can understand things like the Harris-Benedict equation to know approximately how many calories we expend every day based on our gender, age, height, weight, and activity level. And once you have that information and you're equipped with that info, then you can create a meal plan that's going to support either a calorie surplus or a calorie deficit in order to build muscle or lose weight. And so it really gives an individual control over their I guess you want to call it, their body weight outcome by understanding the very important knowledge about nutrient density and calorie density. And for example, let's just give some people some examples here. So the most nutrient dense, which is basically nutrition per calorie or nutrients per calorie, are leafy green vegetables. Those provide the best nutritional return on investment, but they're very low in calories, right? They're only like 60 to 100 calories per pound. Whereas on the far other end of the spectrum, you have oil that's 4,000 calories per pound, okay? And foods all along that continuum. But most of the ones on the far low side are leafy green vegetables, other vegetables, fruits, grains, legumes, foods like that. Nuts and seeds are pretty far on the high calorie spectrum, but those aren't typically a staple in a lot of people's diet, more of a condiment or something you add to a meal. And so what you get with a plant-based diet is super nutrient dense food in low calorie form, meaning that you meet your nutritional needs without having to consume excess calories. Therefore, you can maintain a great weight, great health, and not have to, in a lot of cases, worry about storing lots of excess fat or consuming dietary cholesterol or taking in too low dietary fiber or worrying about missing vitamins or minerals or something like that. With a super diverse plant-based diet of leafy greens and fruits and other vegetables, grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, you are poised to reach your nutritional needs as long as you consume adequate calories. Then you factor in exercise and specific goals and consistency and work ethic and all these other things, and then you can become a champion athlete if you like, or you can lose 100 pounds if you like, or you could gain a bunch of muscle if you like. And it all comes down to understanding things like the ANDI score, the aggregate nutrient density index, and knowing what are the foods that are going to provide the best nutritional return on investment and making sure we eat those foods.
It's so wonderful because this lifestyle, people say, oh, it might help me lose weight or it might help me gain weight, but it also can help in so many lifestyle diseases. So it's just this one size fits almost everything on the spectrum. And meanwhile, you can still regain your health or maintain your health and look good in the way that you want to. If you want to slim down or if you want to bulk up, either way, you just have to learn about it and learn how to manipulate it. I had a woman that was on, her name was Marka Germain, and she had actually lost over 100 pounds. And she also teaches musical instruments, the harp and the keyboard, the piano. And she said that she thinks adopting this lifestyle is like learning a musical instrument. If you want to play the piano, you're not going to learn in one lesson. You need a lot of time to learn about the nutrients and the calories and the movement and so forth, and really because it's a different way of eating.
Yeah, absolutely. And Amy, when I first started, I was 15 years old, didn't have a lot of my own money, didn't know exactly what to eat. I just knew what I didn't want to eat anymore. I did not want to eat animals or animal byproducts anymore. And so I had to learn as well. I didn't know what a lot of foods were. I'd never, had certain foods that maybe are pretty common now, probably even things like avocados or hemp seeds or flax seeds or something like that. As a teenager, just mostly eating standard American diet type of food, I wasn't familiar with a lot of those types of foods, which now are much more prevalent in my diet. And like any nutrition plan, there's some sort of evolution along the way. I mean, you learn different things along the way. You discover different foods. You discover different preferences. You discover how certain foods make you feel, either negatively or positively. You start to understand and learn more about their nutrient composition, about what kind of nutrition they provide for you, or what kind of negative nutrition they might bring to the table, like in the form of processed, refined junk foods. They're foods that many of us like the taste of. They're very addicting. They're, we simply like things like fried foods. We like things with butter on them or with chocolate on them. And that's just, to some degree, our human nature based on what we've consumed in our lives up until this point. And overcoming some of those food addictions is challenging. It certainly is. And we have to acknowledge that. But the more really good positive foods you can introduce to your lifestyle that take up more of the calorie space in your stomach and on your plate and in your on your menu and in your nutrition plan, that the less room there is for a lot of those junk foods. And also just some sort of awareness of what we're consuming. You know, I'm not a big fan of counting every calorie or anything like that. But as a bodybuilder, I did for a while. And even as an author writing about this subject, I think it's actually profoundly important that we do it for a period of time to understand who we are and what we eat and learn more about ourselves. And it is incredibly revealing. If you were to document everything that you eat for an entire week, you'll realize a lot of different things about yourself. You'll realize whether you do or do not like desserts, what foods make up the bulk of your calorie intake, what foods you eat most consistently, which ones are omitted from your diet, maybe even something as seemingly profoundly important like leafy green vegetables. A lot of people don't eat those because there's just other foods to enjoy, like potatoes and sweet potatoes and lentils and beans, or even processed foods like sandwiches and burritos and wraps. And then all of a sudden we're like, wow, I've been doing this plant-based diet for a long time, but I don't even eat leafy green vegetables. Or I realize there's only 3 fruits that I eat. I only eat apples, oranges, and bananas. What about the hundreds or thousands of other fruits out there that maybe have higher levels of antioxidants, better nutrition, just more variety, deeper pigment for greater antioxidant content, more water content that are just more hydrating, ones that have that help with replacing electrolytes lost through exercise. There's all those things to discover. And so I think some sort of self-awareness or documentation of what we're eating gives us just more power over our outcome, just like understanding our calorie consumption and calorie expenditure does.
That's really a very clever way of doing it, because a lot of people say, well, in this lifestyle, you don't even have to measure or weigh or count, or you can just eat whatever you want. But actually, I think that is a really good idea. Whenever you set out to do anything, if you document what you're doing and document what you're eating and the kind of movement that you're making, I think for some people who might want to eat something that may not be as beneficial, the fact that they have to write it down might help them keep from partaking in it, and maybe giving them a moment of pause to change their mind and pick something that was more nutrient dense, or if it was calorie dense, that it would be healthier for them.
Absolutely, Amy. And I experience that all the time. I have a new book coming out soon. And so I'm documenting all of my meals right now just to create some bonus material. So when people pre-order the book, they get like this week-long recap of all of my meals and workouts and that kind of thing. And it is important, because when you're thinking about it and you're like, you feel like having maybe some vegan ice cream or something like that, and you realize you have to write it down, and this is then going to be shared with people, you decide, well, do I really want to do that? And it's not about necessarily following a set of rules or being restrictive or anything like that. It's just that our actions become habits, and that's where it's important to recognize that. It's just like, because, and the reason why I said to document things for a period of time, to have some sort of acknowledgement or awareness of it, is because otherwise we just say blanket statements like, oh yeah, I eat pretty healthy, without any knowledge of what our calorie expenditure versus consumption is, what our nutrient intake is, what our diversity is, what our meal timing is like. And maybe that's not important for some people, but if they do struggle with health or with weight loss or with weight gain or with energy or something like that, then it would make sense to document things, to have some sort of record of it, to see, what could we do better? And so it's the same with exercise. People say, oh yeah, I exercise all the time. And that's just simply not the case. Because we remember the things we want to remember. Like we say, I take my dog for a walk every day, but not on the days you're out of town, or that you feel sick, or that you're stressed, or it's rainy or snowy, or you don't feel like it or whatever. But we don't want to feel those feelings. We want to say, oh, no, I do this every single day, just like I work out every day and I eat healthy food every day. And that's simply not the case. There's other things we do every day, which is usually using the internet and watching television and not moving as much as we probably should, and having some negative thoughts and all that. but I think it really behooves us to be aware of what we are or are not doing. And so I document my exercises as well, because as I was just saying on a different podcast recently, that, if you start missing like 2 days in a row, then missing a third day in a row isn't that big of a deal, or missing a fourth day, because you've already missed 3 now or 4. So might as well just miss 5, or, I'll take the whole week off. And again, that's okay if you don't have a lot of fitness goals. But if you are trying to do something like run a marathon or build muscle or something like that, then taking a week off is going to be problematic with that. So, and speaking of exercise, I see a little one down there who's starting to squeak at me that maybe she wants to go out. I'm going to see if she wants to come visit. Come here, Ellie. Hold on one second. Ellie, come here. Come here. Come say hi. Come here. Come say hi. Come here. Come here. Okay.
Oh, I think we're going to have a treat. Are we? No? Oh, my goodness.
There we go. She's a whopping 6.5 pounds of plant-based Chihuahua awesomeness. And she has been plant-based as long as we've had her, for 4.5 years. And our other little one is about 12 pounds. So he's a bit bigger, and he's sleeping right now. And he's 15 years old and has been plant-based for the last 10 years that we've had him. But she was just, sometimes when I do interviews, or if she hasn't been out to run around as much as she'd like, she starts kind of squeaking at me, which is what she was doing at my feet. So I had to bend down to have her join the conversation today. So
I'm glad you did. That's quite a treat for us.
If she just kind of sits here, I think she'll be okay.
I think so. Well, we'll be. Oh, somebody said, what a doll. Yeah, we'll be okay too. We might not look at you as much. I'm sorry. She's just so cute.
She's the star of the show, and she
never work with animals. They tell the actors, right, or children, because they steal the show.
Yeah, I mean, she's
adorable.
She's been at my feet when I write books and write for hours, and she hangs out with me. We do a walk. Like I was talking about consistency and documenting. Yeah. I have it written down. We go on walks every single day, and sometimes for an hour or 45 minutes or 30 minutes. It depends. But yeah, she's out there with me all the time, and hangs out next to me when I work out, especially if I'm working out at home here with dumbbells. And it's all about that consistency and what we really are doing. And it's just kind of funny. Maybe that's why she started chirping when I talked about we take our dogs for a walk, or we don't.
You said the W word.
Yeah, maybe she heard that. And she said, hey, well then take me on them right now. She doesn't know that I'm working. But it's okay. So she's here to say hi. But all that to say, Amy, that I'm not a stickler for people calorie counting, and I agree with people like Dr. Esselstyn, who says you don't have to. But if you do struggle with weight loss or muscle gain or with energy or with feeling well, then it makes sense to write down what you're eating to realize what the issues might be. And you can have that data, and you can look at it. You can take it to a registered dietitian. You could take it to a doctor. You could just evaluate it yourself, or work with a coach or a trainer, and you can say, wow, here's the problem. That the average person should be drinking, whatever you want to say, 8 cups of water a day, or 10 cups of water, or 12 cups of water. And I'm only drinking 1. I didn't realize that. Or the fact that I'm consuming 400 milligrams of caffeine every day. No wonder I have trouble falling asleep at night, and that I don't feel rested when I wake up the next day. Or we know that exercise is good for serotonin and mental health and feeling good and mood, a positive mood and well-being. And I'm simply only exercising 2 days a week. And I just, for 5 days a week, I don't. And I didn't realize that, because I focus so much on the days that I exercise that I just thought I did it every day. And these are every walk of life, every group of people we know, there are people who fall into that category of we're simply not doing the things that we think that we're doing. And that's often what holds us back. And I'll give you here's one quick analogy that really hits home for me. And that is, I've been trying to write books my entire life. I mean, since this was a dream of mine since I was in the 3rd grade in Mrs. Young's class when I was 8 years old, I wanted to write books. And I was in my 20s, and I was talking to a president of a university in Portland, Oregon. And we were just having a conversation, and I told him that, I'm going to be an author someday. I'm going to write books someday. And he said, well, how's that going? And I said, well, it's coming along, and, it has its ups and downs and all of this. And, but I hadn't published anything yet. He said, have you finished a book? I said, no, but I'm getting close. And he said, here's what I want you to do, Robert. I want you to write 2 pages every day. I don't care if it's good. I don't care if it's bad. I don't care if it's garbage. I want you to write 2 pages every single day. And soon you've written a book. And so I took that approach, and I wrote every day, and not just 2 pages. Some days were 10 pages, 15 pages, 30 pages, or 4 pages, or the minimum of 2 pages. But I wrote every single day. And within a short amount of time, I published my first book 11 years ago. And then when it came to writing another book, I followed the same advice, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And I finished another book, and then another book, and then another book. And there are many people I know, people all around the world who want to write books someday. They just want to write a book. They want to tell their story. And everybody has the ability to do that, or the capacity to do that, especially in today's self-publishing world, if you want to go that route. But it takes effort to write every day, to finish a book. And for many of us, that book is just going to be on the shelf, unfinished. Unfortunately, sometimes forever. And that's the same with nutrition and exercise too, where people talk about, I want to achieve these results. I want weight loss. It means something to me. I want to be able to do it because it's meaningful to me. It's going to make my life different in this kind of way. It's going to make me feel a different way. But they don't put in the 2 pages every single day, which is whatever that is for them, exercising every day, or making conscious food decisions, or evaluating their calorie expenditure versus calorie intake in order to determine that they're in a calorie deficit in order to achieve that goal. So it's really universal. You're not going to run a marathon tomorrow if you haven't been training for one. You're simply not going to. It takes running every day. That's your 2 pages, is running 2 miles every day, and then some days you run 10 miles or 15 miles or 4 miles or whatever the case is. And so I look at things like that as basically connecting the dots. What are my actions today going to impact tomorrow? As an athlete, as a person, as a healthy person, as a writer, as somebody who has health and fitness goals, what can I do today that's going to impact tomorrow? And how will tomorrow impact a year from now, and 5 years from now, and 10 years from now? And that's the way that I think. And that's the only way that I've been able to become a champion bodybuilder. I mean, I was 120 pounds. This is the 1990s. I was vegan on top of that. I had no business in the sport of bodybuilding. And then I came in there and won multiple competitions. I competed at the 2006 Natural Bodybuilding World Championships. I was runner-up 4 different times in bodybuilding competitions. I won overall first place multiple times. I was in all kinds of muscle magazines, and I was able to write books about this, doing something I really had no business doing. And the same with writing. I mean, that wasn't part of my background, but it was something that I wanted to do. And so I worked at it and worked at it and worked at it. And soon I wrote books, and then I sold lots of books, and then I toured around the world and gave presentations in Asia and Australia and Europe and Canada and the Caribbean and all over the US. And then I landed a major book deal with the world's 2nd largest publisher. And it all started with those little things more than a decade ago of writing 2 pages every day and positioning myself to be able to do this. And now talk to people like you and your audience and answer questions about, how do you build muscle on a plant-based diet? Or how do you burn fat on a plant-based diet? Or how do you write a book? Or how do you reclaim your health? You do it by what you do every single day, not just what you do when you feel like it, or when it's convenient, or when you're reminded of it, or when you're in the mood for it. It's what you do every day that determines your outcomes in the future and today.
I just want to take that snippet and post it everywhere, because it's like every morning when we wake up, we should hear what you just said, just to get our frame of mind where it needs to be. And that's such a great idea for thinking about that and how it affects every aspect of our lives. So you had talked about energy. And I think that's really important, because there are people, well, let's just say the people that are trying to work out and build muscle, maybe some of them are thinking about adopting this lifestyle, or maybe some of them have, but didn't document what they were eating and didn't realize that maybe they were in a calorie deficit. so often I'm hearing people say, oh, you just don't get as much energy for your workouts if you don't consume animal products. So what do you say about that?
I would say that that fundamentally makes zero sense because protein of the three macronutrients is the least efficient form of energy. Okay, so carbohydrates are our preferred form, and then fats, which are the most concentrated form of energy, and then protein is the least efficient. And so animal foods are mostly animal protein. And so that is a poor efficiency use of energy. I mean, you're just not going to get much energy from animal protein. That's just not how it works. Energy comes from complex carbohydrate, plant-based foods. And that's what our body likes to run on. That's what our brain likes to run on. That's what we store in our muscles, and glycogen for reserves as we run out of energy from a long workout or from fasting or whatever the case is. And so I think what they're saying, I've been doing this for 25 years, so I understand where they're coming from. I think what they're saying is they don't feel nourished or satiated or full to have the power to go do a workout. It has nothing to do with energy, because energy does not come from animal-based foods in the way that they think, as far as burning it for fuel. So what they're saying is maybe I'm eating too low calories on a plant-based diet. I'm eating too many salads and not enough starchy vegetables, not as many legumes, not as many grains, not as many of the calorie-dense nuts and seeds. And so I think what they're getting at is that, I just don't feel full, and therefore that makes me feel a little bit hungry. And when I'm hungry, I don't feel like exercising. I feel like eating instead. So I'm going to eat and hopefully get nourished and feel full. And then I'll go to a workout, which then after they eat, then they're too full and they're too tired and they don't get the workout in. And so I've seen that play out over the last 20 years or so. So I do understand where they're coming from. How to mitigate that. So one of the most important things is to understand what your calorie needs are. So then you consume adequate calories so that you do feel full and satiated and energized and fueled up and are ready to exercise and go burn calories and have power and strength and all of that. So Amy, here's a scenario. I've seen this for decades, right? So let's say you're a regular standard American diet eating athlete, okay? So you're an omnivore athlete, maybe you're a basketball player, football player, soccer player. Let's just say, for example's sake, that you're used to eating 3,000 calories a day. That may sound like a lot, but it's very, very common for athletes, men and women alike, actually, because of the amount of calories they expend. Let's just say that it's a nice, easy, round number. So if you're eating a omnivorous diet, animal protein with some plants and everything, and for 3,000 calorie diet, and that's what your body is used to, and you're building strength, you're a football player, you're, whatever the case is. And then you switch to a plant-based diet and you cut out all the animal protein and a lot of the calorie density, okay, that's in meat and dairy and eggs. And now all of a sudden, let's say you're consuming 2,000 calories a day. And you're wondering, hey, where did some of my energy go? Or where did my strength go? Or how come I'm losing weight? But what you've done is reduced your calorie intake by 1,000, by a third. And you're wondering why you lost weight or why you lost energy, because calories are energy and you just lost 1,000 of them, and you don't have the ability to even maintain muscle mass, because you're in a significant calorie deficit. This happens all the time, particularly with men. I've seen male athletes of all types, especially strength athletes, because in the world of bodybuilding or contact sports, I've encountered countless male athletes who are interested in a plant-based diet, adopt a plant-based diet, and lose unwanted weight or even muscle. And it's because when you replace meat with leafy greens or fruits or cruciferous vegetables and things like that, you're just missing a lot of that calorie intake. So what do you have to do? You got to be aware of that. And so then you need to eat some things that have a bit more calories in them, like nut butters or nuts and seeds themselves, and on salads and in smoothies, on bowls, sandwiches, peanut butter sandwiches or almond butter or cashew butter or whatever you like, adding walnuts to oatmeal, adding nuts and seeds to cereals or something like that. Consuming more potatoes and yams and sweet potatoes and lentils and beans and rice and oats and some of the more calorie dense plant-based foods, more avocados and olives and things like that. And then it's easy to do. Then you can still maintain your in this example, your 3,000 calorie diet with completely plant-based foods, and you could even do it with completely plant-based whole foods. It may require a bit more volume or a bit more strategic planning, but that is precisely what's happening for a lot of people, men and women alike. And now consider the flip side of that. Okay, let's say people are trying. There's a person who's trying to lose weight, which is a much more common goal than trying to gain weight. And let's say they need to be consuming about 2,000 calories a day. Again, just as an example, an active person involved in whatever it is, walking, jogging, cycling, swimming, dog walking, just active around the house, climbing stairs, whatever the case is. They're consuming 2,000 calories a day, and that helps them maintain weight or even lose weight. But let's say they have no awareness of what their diet is like at all. And they love things like processed vegan food. I mean, and you know, who doesn't to some degree? Vegan pizza and lasagna and this kind of stuff, and burritos and wraps and ice creams and things, you know, oil and all of that. And now they're consuming, let's say, 3,000 calories a day without knowing it. There's no awareness whatsoever. And they don't know how many calories are in chocolate or in pastries or in breads or in donuts we just don't know. And so here's this person trying to lose weight or at least maintain weight on their 2,000 calorie diet. And without knowing it, they're consuming 3,000 calories every single day. So what does that do? That accumulates over time. And so that person is not going to be in a calorie deficit. They're not going to lose weight, even if they're exercising a ton, if they're over consuming by 1,000 calories. And over time, what's actually more likely to happen is that they will gain weight. Even with the goal or the quest or the dream or the effort to lose weight, if the calorie surplus is so significant because we're not aware of it, and just adds up and accumulates week after week, month after month, and then over the course of time, months, or over the course of a year or two, we add, 5 pounds here, 10 pounds there, 20 pounds here, and all of a sudden we're not losing weight. And so it goes both ways, and it just comes down to having an understanding. And again, I just want to reiterate that I don't believe people need to count calories every day. But if you don't have any awareness of what you're eating or what you're expending, it certainly is advantageous to do it for a period of time. And it may be the most eye-opening thing that you experience about yourself, because food is something we consume all day long. It's a very intimate and personal thing. We eat based on our emotions. We eat based on our schedules, based on whether we're home or away from home, or whether we're traveling, or the company that we're with, the people that we're with. And that may determine the beverages that we drink, whether that's heavy calorie beverages or alcoholic beverages or anything. Water compared to milkshakes versus alcohol versus fruit juice loaded with sugar. Whatever it is, it's oftentimes the company that we're with, the situations that we're in, the places we go. And if we can just become aware of those things, it's incredibly insightful and eye-opening. And I have to tell you, Amy, it's one of the most empowering feelings to have control over that. And I experienced it firsthand where, I've put on 100 pounds. So there've been times that I've been heavy, and where I've been injured and couldn't exercise for 5 months because I herniated discs in my spine, but I still ate like I was this weightlifter, bodybuilder guy. And I packed on a ton of extra body fat and was like 30% body fat when I had been as low as 6% as a bodybuilder. Like I've gone through this myself. It's not like Robert's always been fit and strong and all this. I was very thin. I was a long distance runner. I could not put on body fat or weight, to save my life. I tried for a year and gained 1 pound. I was a miserable failure. And until I really understood some of these relationships between calorie consumption and expenditure. And then all of a sudden I put on a bunch of muscle and became a champion bodybuilder. But even as a bodybuilder, I had to lose body fat. I would be 195 pounds, but I would compete at 172 or 176. I had to drop 20 pounds in sometimes a relatively short amount of time to compete in bodybuilding and have that kind of muscle definition like you have, Amy, in your biceps. I saw before we started recording. I had to have that. I had to have the muscle definition, the veins, the low body fat, be able to see abs and muscle separation and legs and arms and back. So I became, almost like an expert in burning fat. And then I became an expert in building muscle and then building strength where I could, lift significant weights. very heavy weights for my body size and all of that. And it was all because I had awareness. I documented things for a period. So I learned about myself, what I do and don't do, and what my preferences are, and where I'm lazy, or how I manage 1,440 minutes in a day to be productive or not productive. And then I had control, and that's such a powerful word. I mean, imagine how many people listening, or how many people have you talked to, Amy, who would just love to be able to have control, let's say, of their weight loss or weight gain, or just their body weight, or control of their energy levels, or control of their cholesterol levels, or their health, or whatever the case is. And in many cases, you absolutely can. And I've experienced that firsthand over the past quarter century. And I've known so many others who've been able to do that too. And it's such an empowering feeling. And so I encourage everyone to experiment with that, play around with that, and really learn a lot about yourself. And then you can apply whatever strategies that make sense to you as in relation to what your goals are to help achieve them.
Well, that is very empowering, because I think many people throughout their childhood and even a lot of their adult life, they don't feel that they're in control. And it seems that in recent years anyway, we just want, give me a magic pill, or just tell me what I need to do within 24 hours and I want to look like you, and it's not that easy, and you have to really dedicate yourself to something, and you can't just have something happen overnight and it would turn out to be beneficial anyway.
Yeah, and I think that this idea of overnight success with weight loss or muscle gain, or whatever it is, writing a book or having a podcast or your own show or whatever, is this false reality. I mean, actually, I know it's a very common expression or quote or idea, but my wife just shared it with me the other day, just as a reminder. She was talking about Chinese bamboo plants, how you plant seeds and you water them every day, or whatever the consistency is, every other day, or for 5 years, and they don't do anything. They just sit there. And then all of a sudden they grow to 90 feet tall in their fifth year. But it was that continuous nurturing and watering and planting and caring that led to that result 5 years later. And that's the same thing with health and fitness. Nobody gains weight overnight, regardless of what your genetics are. Nobody does that. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens over the course of habits in our environment, over the course of years. That's whether we're talking childhood obesity or adulthood obesity, or just people struggling with weight. It's a culmination of our habits throughout our lives. And yes, some of us have predispositions and genetics that are more inclined to add body weight, and many of us have circumstances where we don't have healthy food at home, including children. It's very unfortunate, whether they live in a food desert, or they're just financially limited, or there's not a lot of education in the household about what types of foods to eat. And the fact that there's government subsidies on foods like processed meats that are class 1 carcinogens or class 2A carcinogens, and these are the foods that are affordable to eat: hot dogs and chips and things that are fried and things that are shelf stable and will last for years, and they're very affordable and they're convenient. They're at every gas station, grocery store in the country. It's that kind of stuff, or it's the hidden sugars that are in things like even bottled smoothies you get at even a health food store. They're just, I've read these labels and I've compared them. With my new book, I've laid this out there, that sometimes even these bottled smoothies that are considered a healthy green juice have more of your daily added sugar intake than what you're supposed to consume in the entire day of all of your calories. It's your daily intake is done with one green smoothie that's loaded with sugar, and that contributes. Or the fact that soda is something that is one of the cheapest things possible, and children, myself included, when I was a kid, drank a lot of it. You can get those big 44 ounce or 64 ounce. I mean, 64 ounces is half a gallon. Can you believe that? I mean, half a gallon of soda loaded with sugar, and it's addicting, and it's, obviously tons of calories, and it's calories in liquid form. So you don't think of it as eating, you're drinking it. And that's one thing that baffles me a little bit, Amy, is that when I talk about, let's say, bodybuilding diets, and I talk about things like 3,000 calories a day or 4,000 calories a day, some people's eyes get really big, like, who eats that much? And the people who eat that much are often regular everyday people. Regular everyday people eat 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day. No question, absolutely. In their liquid consumption, their alcohol consumption, their pizza consumption, their pastry consumption, their bread consumption, their oil consumption, their butter consumption, their dairy consumption, their meat consumption, loaded with calories. But they're the ones that are just mind blown that someone can actually eat 4,000 calories a day when they are in fact doing it, and it's leading to obesity and to health problems, and those, that leads to inactivity, that leads to a lower desire or confidence to then go do things like exercise or go to the gym. It leads to feeling more lethargic or having some aches and pains because your joints are carrying around more weight, and then you're less likely to engage in these exercises, or even more likely to succumb to some sort of injury to an ankle or knee or lower back because of the situation that you're in. And so that's why I do like to share some of these ideas about knowing how many calories are in something. I just had 3 bananas before this interview today. About 120 calories per banana, but they're super nutrient dense. I also had some apples and some water and some antioxidant drink from aronia berry, which is more antioxidant rich than blueberries or acai berries, although less common. And, I'm aware of how many calories are in those things, just as I may be aware of the 250 or 300 calories in a typical frozen burrito, a plant-based frozen burrito. But you can look at 300 or 400 calories in a little chocolate bar, or the super calorie density in cheese or ice cream or meat. And being aware of that can just help us make decisions when we go to the grocery store. And one thing I've been saying for 15 years on tour, and maybe you've heard me say, is I oftentimes, and this is totally true, not that I do it all the time, or maybe even not super recently, but probably within the last few weeks, I'll be in a grocery store and I will ask the question to myself, just quietly in my head, what will this food do for me? Will it help me, or will it hurt me, really, nutritionally? Like sometimes I want things like, potato chips or corn chips or vegan ice cream or frozen pizza, or I see a great deal and I can't turn it down. It's like buy one, get one free or whatever. But I have to say, is this helping me or is this hurting me? And then I've got to move over as often as I can to the produce section and say, this is my nutritional return on investment. This is what I've got to do if I want to be the best version of me. And I think that's the quest that we're all on. What's the best version of ourselves, and how do we get there? And it takes discipline. It takes accountability. It takes being honest with ourselves, which is not always fun, because I have to confront myself and say, Robert, you are addicted to caffeine. You're addicted to added sugar in food. You are addicted to the way this hot, warm textured processed, maybe let's say it's a pizza, food makes you feel. And it reminds me of my friend Chef AJ, who I'm sure you know, who has the famous line. In fact, it's even in my brand new book that comes out in 2 months, when she's talking about food and junk food specifically. She says, if it's in your house, it's in your mouth, because a time will come when you are tired, when you're stressed, when you're lazy, when you've eaten through a lot of the other stuff in your house, like produce, then you're like, well, this chocolate thing's just staring at me, or this big bag of chips has been there for like 2 months, or this vegan ice cream is not going to eat itself. Like, I don't know, it's a Saturday night, I'm watching a movie, let's just do it. And then that's what starts this snowball effect of, okay, now I had this thing. Well, okay, I had this thing, I'm going to go have this other thing now, because why not? I already messed up, so to speak. And now I don't feel like exercising. And since I missed yesterday at the gym and it's now closed on a Sunday at this certain hour, I'm not going to make it in time. Why bother? And I'll just figure it out next week. And then maybe next week work gets busy, or life gets busy, or a pandemic hits and you can't go to the gym, or something happens. And so really at the end of the day, it's about personal accountability, but those are words that people don't like to hear. And so I use words like showing up. I learned that from Sonia Looney, who's in my new book, from Rich Roll, who's in my new book. from Scott Jurek, from Rip Esselstyn, people I interviewed recently, that just show up every day. Show up and start your day with, like I just shared with you, some fruit and some water and some antioxidants and some real energy, and go from there, and start by exercising or having a positive attitude for the day ahead and the 1,440 minutes we have. How do I make the most of that? Those are the kind of things that I think we need to focus on. And even if it's under the umbrella of personal accountability, we can think of it as consistency. We can think of it as goal setting. We can think of it as actionable steps, or we can simply think of it as showing up. Just show up day after day and eat healthy food, stay hydrated, exercise, smile often, and, or be like me and have a dog sleeping on your arm, and all of it helps.
Wow. I just love everything that you say. It's so inspirational, and it's things that we really need to keep these words in our thoughts, because our thoughts really seem to determine our actions. And if we can keep these kinds of motivational thoughts in our minds, it would surely be helpful. Now, muscle building is important, I think, for everyone. I mean, for some people, it could be that they want to compete like you have. But for some people, I think it's important for everyone, actually, it's important to have muscle, because we need to have strong bones. And if you don't have muscle, then you don't have strong bones. So as somebody who's just starting out, and maybe they're just kind of the person with the remote control in their hand for the TV, and they're on their computer or their whatever device all the time, and they don't have a dog, or if they do, the dog doesn't get a WALK. But so what would you suggest? I didn't want to say the word. You never know.
Yeah, I'm nodding. I was smiling. I appreciate that.
So what should they start? How can they start?
Amy, that's a great question. And it's a question that a lot of people have. And I know people in my personal life who are not athletes and have not been athletic their whole lives. And I have to make sure that I understand that. And coming from a place where I was always an athlete, whether I was an endurance athlete or strength athlete, I have to make sure I recognize that that's not everyone's desire. Everyone doesn't have just this desire to go exercise. There's a desire to do other things, to be academic, or to read, or to be scientifically engaged, or to be musically inclined, or to have just other hobbies. Like, not everyone just enjoys going out for a run. That would be torture for a lot of people. They would hate that, or running on a treadmill, or going to lift weights would be just an awful thing to experience. Why put yourself through, the pain of muscle contraction, in a big, noisy, loud, air-conditioned box gymnasium? Like, who wants to do that? And so what I think is very, very important is for people to find what they enjoy about exercise. You know what exercise is, Amy? Exercise is dancing. It's skiing. It's going on a walk. It's riding a bike. It's swimming. It's running on the beach. It's walking uphill in a neighborhood. It's doing things around the house. It's going on a WALK with your pets. It's being active. It's anything. It's moving furniture. It's carrying groceries. It's walking to and from places. That cannot be taken for granted. Like, we have to understand that those are forms of exercise. Playing basketball, playing tennis, throwing a ball, or playing catch with a friend, a child, a parent, a loved one. Doing something that gets your heart rate up, that gets your muscles engaged. That's adventurous. Putting on a tight T-shirt or a hoodie and going to the gym to lift weights is not for everybody. If that's not for you, don't do it. But find something that does work for you. And for some people, that is something like dancing, or being part of a team sport, or hiking is a very common one, or even walking. And the more we can do for our lower body, if we're able to, the better, because then we start building up those leg muscles, and we help with bone density. And I was talking to Dr. Dean and Aisha Sherzai recently, and they have a great brand new best-selling book right now too. about Alzheimer's, and they were talking about exercise being leg exercises being the most important ones that you can do, even for brain health. It's just there's something about training legs that is very, very beneficial. And so one of the things that I personally do is I love hiking. I currently live in Colorado, but spent a lot of hiking time in Arizona and Oregon and Los Angeles, California, and places that I've lived. And when I'm not behind a computer writing or promoting a book, I still engage in that here in Colorado. And that's great for me. And it trains leg muscles. And also when it comes to fitness in a gym, when I was a competitive bodybuilder 10 years ago, dating back to 20 years ago too, or even now as a weightlifter, like what I'm going to do today is use the Stairmaster at the gym. That really, I do have access to a gym. I'm very fortunate. Not everybody does. And it's not always safe for everybody during, these times, but I happen to have access to Stairmaster. And so I use it. I use it almost every other day to be consistent with climbing stairs. And I climb over 100 flights of stairs, per day at a time. Usually takes me 25 minutes, anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes to climb 120 flights of stairs. And that is a way that helps me stay in shape, make my heart and lungs work and keep those strong, keep my legs, my lower legs, my upper legs, my glutes engaged, my abs engaged. And it's a great workout. And it's just showing up and doing that day after day or every other day or whatever consistent schedule yours is. But Amy, the most important thing of all is that you have to find enjoyment in the process of exercise or you won't do it. There are so many other things to do that bring us enjoyment, including using social media and engaging with our friends and family from around the world, sitting in a chair, on a couch, or in a bed, or on a bench, or and not moving, but just brings us happiness and joy, and that's fine. Or watching television, or movies, or our favorite shows, or educational materials, documentaries, or tuning into podcasts like this. Those are all great, but oftentimes you can do something with it, like you can listen while you walk, or while you're using a Stairmaster or a treadmill or something like that. Or being active at home. And also, Amy, one other thing I want to mention on that is there's something they talk about in the blue zones with the longest lived people. It's not just the fact that most of them eat legumes as a staple and a very heavy plant-based diet, and they're very active in gardening and walking and cycling and hiking and swimming, but it's also being part of a community that makes people happy and live long, healthy lives. And if you can be part of a team, whether it's just a tennis club or a golf club or a swimming club, or friends that you go on bike rides with, or friends you meet up to take your pets on WALKs with, whatever the case is, having some sort of community makes you look forward to something, including exercise. If you have a training partner who is counting on you, is expecting you to be there, who is motivated by your presence and you're motivated by their presence, you help one another, that can't be overlooked either. And so be part of some sort of club, team, sport, community, neighborhood, friend, loved one, family, be part of some sort of group and do what you enjoy doing, whatever form of exercise that is, and then do it consistently. And you are on the fast track to health, happiness, weight loss, muscle gain, and just feeling great. And if you just show up every day, you can attain that.
Okay, well, I hope that maybe people will take this along with them on a walk and hear your motivational talk, because that would surely do it. So we're going to take some questions now from our listeners and viewers, and we're going to post them up. We'll see. Charles Deschler. I'm sorry, Debbie Litton. If you eat protein bars, which one do you recommend?
Amy, believe it or not, I don't eat protein bars. In fact, I don't do protein powders, nor have I in almost 10 years. I'll just quickly explain. I was a big protein bar, protein powder person until I worked for Forks Over Knives in 2011, and I helped release that film. And then I took Dr. T. Colin Campbell's plant-based nutrition course through Cornell University, an online course that challenged my views on protein consumption and subsequently led to a lower protein consumption overall. You may be very surprised to hear that as a 220-pound, 6-foot-tall male weightlifter, I only consume about 10% of my calories from protein. I do eat about 3,000 calories per day. 70%, and this is documented, so I have the data. It's there. 70% of my calories come from carbohydrate, about 10 from protein, and 20% from fats. Some days it may be 75, 15, 15, or maybe 60, 20, 20. Whatever the case is, protein is not something that I super emphasize, even as a guy who lifts pretty heavy weights and weighs well over 200 pounds. And so if that's true for me, I suspect that a low protein diet works for a lot of other people too, especially with a smaller build or smaller body type, or don't have goals of getting super strong and lifting heavy weights. So that being said, I don't use protein bars, but there are some out there that are no doubt better than others. And so I'm not really going to mention brands, because I've worked with a ton over the years, including some currently with my work with my nonprofit work with Vegan Strong, where we support and promote lots of different plant-based brands and companies, even if I personally, my personal philosophy may not be to focus on protein. A lot of people do. So I won't mention brands, but I will just say, look for bars that don't have a lot of added sugar. Look for bars that have all natural ingredients. Of course, avoid whey protein and casein protein and milk protein that's for some reason show up in a lot of bars that otherwise you think would be plant-based. So look carefully for that. And the cleaner the bar, the better. I do consume some Lara bars because they're like 4 ingredients. There's nothing sports enhancing or supplement, about them or protein rich. They're just dates and nuts, and like 4 or 5 ingredients. And I do eat some Lara bars. But other than that, maybe I'll just quickly add this, that a lot of bars labeled as protein bars actually have 3 times the level of carbohydrate than protein in those bars, or maybe double the amount of fat. I mean, they could just as aptly be called the carbohydrate bar or a fat bar. Often throwing protein on there is a pretty big marketing thing. They're literally, most protein bars have 3 times the level of carbohydrate, therefore 3 times the calories coming from carbohydrate, and they could really be listed as a carbohydrate bar, what we call as an energy bar, but protein sells a lot more. So what I would say is just, eat regular food, especially pre or post workout. I eat bananas and berries and potatoes and yams and oats and things like that. Applesauce, super convenient. I've got one, sitting right here. Like this is just this little, that's it. Organic apples, like that's it. That's what's in here. Organic apples blended up, but it's in a little convenient pouch. Do something like that, and don't super stress the protein. I don't think that's necessary.
I agree. Okay, let's see. Our next one, Trevor L. How do you keep your macros? Okay, I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm going to read it. How do you keep your macros at the level they need to be to sustain your gains?
Okay, so what Trevor's asking about is your macronutrient consumption. So how do you balance out your carbohydrate, protein, and fat consumption to sustain your specific goals when all of those contribute to your total calorie consumption? So as I was just saying, for my 3,000 calorie diet, 70% of my calories come from carbohydrates, about 10% from protein, and 20% from fat. So how do I do that? Well, I manage that, and that's actually my goal. I deliberately have a low protein intake. I'm just not that into it. I've spent years doing 5 protein drinks a day and 300 grams of protein a day. I'm fine with less than 100 grams of protein a day, even at 220 pounds. Like it works for me to eat much more naturally and health conscious foods and complex carbohydrates, which naturally contain more vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytonutrients, water, and fiber than protein rich foods do, even in the plant-based world. So how do I do that? I seek out the foods that fit those categories. As I've mentioned already, I eat a lot of fruit and vegetables and grains and legumes. Even if we think as legumes as high protein foods like beans or lentils or whatever, remember, most of their calories come from carbohydrate. They're really a carbohydrate food. They just have higher levels of protein than a lot of other plants do. So we think of them as high protein when really they're not. They're carbohydrate foods. So that's what I eat. I mean, let me think. Like last night I had some pasta, for example. big bowls big bowls of pasta, got tons of calories in there. There were vegetables on top and some sauce. I had some Thai fried rice. Now I know there was some oil in there, of course, but again, very much rice and onions and broccoli and carrots and those types of foods. For breakfast, I've been eating fruit a lot lately, sometimes oatmeal with berries and nuts and things like that. And I'm a big fan of burrito bowls and plant-based sushi, with just, rice and seaweed and avocado and cucumber and carrots or sweet potato or whatever the case is. I don't load up on tons of tofu or seitan or tempeh. I do some, but honestly, not very much. And I often go without, like, even if that's being prepared or offered, or, the extra tofu on the side, like, no, thanks. I'm fine with the rice and vegetables. And so that's how I keep on my macros. And as we talked about, that's where the energy comes from. So the energy, the fuel to get ready for a workout, and then the recovery afterwards. So what do you need after workout? I mean, you've burned through all this carbohydrate fuel, you've burned through electrolytes, you've burned through sweat, you've sweated out water. You want to consume carbohydrate, electrolytes, and water after workout, and low protein, high carbohydrate plant-based foods are a great way to do that.
Wow. So if you go into the gym, you can even take, like you said, some bananas and fruit, or even if you have that to-go applesauce.
Yeah.
It just seems so simple. And well, I have to, for those of you that are watching and not just listening, you have to show us your muscles, because you're talking about these foods that it doesn't seem like you could gain muscle by eating these, benign sounding foods that you don't have a shake or a or something.
I know it just sounds completely ludicrous or like an oxymoron, but I will literally finish a workout and, like, I'm craving oranges, banana, blueberries, apricots, peaches, nectarines. Like, that's what I want to eat afterwards. And yeah, later I'll have something a little bit heavier, a burrito bowl or something. But let me just move Ellie here. She's still here with me on my desk, but let me see if I can get some muscles here on the camera. See if they fit. I gotta move.
See if they fit. Things bigger than my head.
Yeah, they don't really fit on the screen very well. But yeah, I do maintain a body weight of well over 200 pounds, and I have for years now. And that's just the reality of what I like to eat, and I document that stuff, and I've done it for years, and it works for me. And there's other well-known vegan bodybuilders who are starting to incorporate a lower protein intake approach, because the nutritional science suggests that it's perhaps total calories that are more important than total protein. And when you eat certain macronutrients like complex carbohydrate, you naturally get more anti-inflammatory, antioxidant rich foods in there, and naturally more electrolytes, naturally more hydration, and the ability to recover better. There's a doorbell. She heard the doorbell just now. Probably some sort of I don't know, plant-based shipment that's on the way.
Right.
But I think my wife's just checking the door, so I think we're good.
Oh, okay. That's good.
She hasn't started barking yet. But yeah, there's a lot of great questions about that, And also, I just wanted to say, Amy, you're right. What you described as some of the foods to take to a gym, like even in your gym bag, or you take with you if it's a home workout or in the park, those are precisely the things that I really do. Bananas, applesauce, Lara bars, perhaps. Like, that is what I fuel up on before. I mean, I'm known, and this is for years, I've been known to eat a banana or two as I'm walking into the gym. Like, that gives me my complex carbohydrate fuel for the workout. That's like the perfect thing for me to eat to power up for workout. And it's not heavy on my stomach. It's 120 calories or so per banana. It gives me proper fuel. It also allows me to burn through that fuel during the workout, and then while providing energy that whole time. And then I can just simply replenish with something on the way home. Like, maybe it is a Lara bar, maybe it is more fruit, maybe it is some berries, maybe, or even it's something I pick up on the way home, like some plant-based sushi that's a little bit more calorie dense, or I grab a burrito on the way home, or simply I typically just come straight home and I have a post-workout meal of whatever is already at home, a minestrone soup, something like that, a lentil soup, a rice and bean and vegetable dish, whatever the case is.
Well, I'm glad that you talked about that too. And I'm sure that in your book, that would be a great resource to find out what you do eat specifically, so that could give people great ideas.
You know what, Amy? Not only that, my new book, which is called The Plant-Based Athlete, it comes out June 15th, but you can pre-order now anywhere, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, whatever. In that specific book, I interviewed 60 world-class plant-based athletes, including a dozen Olympians, a dozen world champions, tons of professional athletes. And about 25 of them have a section in the book which shows their sample day in the life. So you can actually see the sample meals and workouts of Olympic athletes, world-class athletes, professional athletes, right there in the book. And we have people like James Wilkes from the Game Changers, and Scott Jurek, and Brendan Brazier, and Fiona Oakes, and Christine Barteros, and Jahina Malik, and Natalie Matthews, and David Carter, who was in the NFL, and David Verberg, who's an Olympic gold medalist in sprinting, a bunch of different swimmers, and people like Rip Esselstyn and Darcy Gaither and Vanessa Espinoza, and incredible Orla Walsh. I mean, incredible men and women. Andreas Wojta, who's an Olympic athlete, runner from Austria, and a 38-time national record holder. And Corinne Sutton, who's won 20 bodybuilding competitions on a plant-based diet. And you get to see like what they eat, you know, from some of these game changer athletes like Dotsie Bausch, to Rich, you know, people like Rich Roll in the book. And it's just, it's really great. And of course I contribute mine as well. And so does my co-author, Matt Frazier. And so you get to see what athletes from all different backgrounds, endurance to strength to professional to Olympic to world champion, what they eat behind the scenes. And even the book has 60 recipes, almost all 60 contributed by these world-class plant-based athletes. So it makes it super unique. There's never been a book like this. There's never been a book that reveals so much about what the best plant-based athletes in the world, men and women, do behind the scenes. Even their grocery lists for some of them are listed there. From Olympic athletes to world champions like Sonia Looney and Julia Murray list, you know, like what they grocery shop for. And it's so cool to see behind the scenes. And even as I read the book over and over and over and over during the editing process, you know, after I wrote it, you know, I got inspired every time. I kept getting inspired, even get emotional sometimes reading the stories of these athletes who overcame so much. There's even somebody in the book who was over 420 pounds, who lost 240 pounds and is now an ultra running champion, Josh Lajani. I mean, just the things that he overcame, or people who overcame drug addiction and then became Olympic medalists, or Robbie Ballinger's run across America. Yeah, it was 3,175 miles he ran across America in only 75 days. Do the math. It's a marathon and a half every single day. You know, and what their mindset was like, what they ate to fuel that endeavor. How Rip Esselstyn set a world record in his late 50s in the 200-meter backstroke in swimming, like as a result of his dedication, years following a plant-based diet and a positive attitude and working hard. And it's just incredible. And like Fiona Oakes, who lost her kneecap, I think she was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old or something, and was told that she would never run. And now has gone on to set Guinness World Record, multiple Guinness World Records in ultra marathon running. And she represents her native country of England in marathon running and I think half marathon running and 10K as well. And has set course records on, I don't know, 6 or 7 different continents. She's even running a marathon on Antarctica, if I understand it correctly. And it's just really inspiring. So I think people are going to love The Plant-Based Athlete for its uniqueness and how there's nothing else like it out there.
Well, we're definitely going to put a link to that and all the other books that you wrote in the show notes, and links to where people can find you, because these are really important materials that people can have access to. And just as you're so inspirational in this short amount of time, they can find you on veganbodybuilding.com. We have that in the show notes and on the screen for our viewers so that they can find you. And the time is just going by so quickly. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about that we didn't touch on?
Just briefly, Amy, and I know sometimes my answers are kind of long, so I apologize. I know it goes long with.
No, you're great information. I love it.
Well, I appreciate that, but I know I can be a bit long-winded, and part of that is being a writer and usually writing 100,000 words in a book and trying to, condense that into some shorter thoughts. But I would like to mention briefly, as you see on my shirt, Vegan Strong is a nonprofit organization that I've been working with for the last few years. We are a team of vegan athletes who work really, really hard to show the world that plants have all the protein you need. That's our slogan. Plants have all the protein you need. Before the pandemic, we exhibited at the biggest fitness expos in the country, if not the world. Some that had 250,000 attendees or 100,000 attendees or 80,000 attendees. And we had a 10 by 10 or 10 by 20 booth and distributed tens of thousands of booklets about Vegan Strong and building plant-based muscle, and tens of thousands of product samples from many of our brand partners and coupons. And we had countless thousands of conversations with people. And we inspired a lot of people in the mainstream fitness culture to believe in a plant-based diet and trust a plant-based diet to help them achieve their goals and dreams in the fitness world. And so that's been really, really rewarding. And we haven't been on tour in over a year now because of the pandemic, but we've been shipping out Vegan Strong monthly boxes on veganstrong.com. It's an assortment of various vegan products that we send out, products and coupons. Those are available on veganstrong.com. We actually sold hundreds of Vegan Strong t-shirts just in the last 2 months, partly because we did a big sale, but people around the country are wearing those. And we're just really working hard to show the world that plants have all the protein you need with our recipes, our meal plans, our workouts, our examples that we set, our optimism, the fact that we, live the lifestyle, we train hard, we work hard, and we eat green and we live clean, and we are Vegan Strong.
Well, that's wonderful. That's going to be a great resource for everyone. And I hope that they visit veganstrong.com and see what you have there, because we can all help the movement by sharing this with other people, that people that don't understand that you can live a healthy lifestyle, or you can be a bodybuilder or an athlete and still eat this healthy lifestyle that is good for your body and good for the animals, good for the planet, the environment. It's a win-win-win-win for everyone. And I hope people share this broadcast with lots of people and check out all of your resources. So I wanted to let everybody know that we do have another guest coming up, and we kind of touched on this before, but Jess Tasse Voice is going to show us who is coming next.
Food addiction is far more common than acknowledged. Dr. Joan Ifland is a food addiction expert and author of the only food addiction textbook, Processed Food Addiction. She speaks on the topic and has developed a treatment program for people with food addiction. Join us Wednesday, April 14th, 3 p.m. Eastern on Be Green with Amy live.
And I also want to thank somebody in the background, and that is Rebecca from PKA Sols. She's been our engineer, and she's been clicking everything so I don't have to, because I've been thoroughly enjoying my conversation with Robert, and I didn't have to worry about a thing as she took care of business for us. And I also wanted to thank Jess from Jess Tasse Voice. She did the countdown and those promos that you saw throughout the interview. Most of all, I want to thank you guys, the audience, because if you weren't here, we wouldn't be. And if you can please like, share, subscribe, or comment, let's get this information out, because there's lots of people out there that can benefit from this lifestyle. And if they don't know about the benefits, and they don't know that they can do it in different walks of life, whether they're trying to build big muscles like Robert has, or just regain their health, it's going to help everybody. And if you can do that, and also what you can do is you can type in, along with Robert and me, we're going to be saying my tagline, which is be strong, be well, and be green. Thanks, Robert. And thanks, everybody, for joining us.